In the heart of East Africa, where the dust of one brutal war has barely settled, the winds of conflict stir once more. The Horn of Africa, a region long haunted by cycles of violence, betrayal, and fragile peace, now stands at the edge of another possible catastrophe. And this time, the alliances forming are as unexpected as they are dangerous. Whispers have begun to rise from the streets of Asmara, the capital of Eritrea, a city that has often played the quiet backdrop to some of the region's most significant geopolitical moves. There, in the shadows of its tightly controlled corridors, a remarkable gathering is reportedly taking place. Getachew Asefa, the former Ethiopian intelligence chief and one of the most elusive figures from the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, is said to have resurfaced. Long hidden from the public eye, branded a fugitive by the Ethiopian government and sanctioned internationally, Getachew now appears to be stepping back onto the stage, not alone, but with a cadre of Tigrayan activists at his side. The symbolism of this is chilling. Getachew, once the architect of Ethiopia's feared security apparatus, is not just any figure from Tigray's past. His re-emergence signals something deeper, a possible regrouping, a recalibration of old plans, and the rekindling of unfinished struggles. But what's even more unsettling is who may be sitting across the table from him. Reports suggest a fractured segment of the Fano militia, an Amhara nationalist armed group previously at odds with Tigrayan forces, is now entertaining informal alliances with Tigrayans. Add to this the increasingly aggressive posture of Eritrea, whose leadership has never fully hidden its ambitions in Ethiopia's internal affairs, and a deeply concerning picture begins to emerge. An unlikely coalition of former enemies now, seemingly united by a common adversary, the Ethiopian federal government under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Only a few years ago, these factions were killing each other on battlefields from Mekelle to Gondar. The 2020-2022 civil war left hundreds of thousands dead and millions displaced, shattering families and towns in its wake. Yet, even after the Pretoria peace agreement brought the war to a formal close, peace in Ethiopia has remained fragile, more a ceasefire than a true reconciliation. Now some fear the scars of that war were never allowed to heal, and, in fact, may be reopening. Political experts and intelligence analysts are sounding the alarm. The signs of a new conflict are emerging, one that could eclipse the last in both scope and destruction. With the federal government still entangled in political disputes and regional unrest, the timing for such a coordinated move could be ideal for those seeking to destabilize the current order. This time, though, the chessboard is different. The players have changed sides. Former enemies are becoming tactical allies, driven not by trust, but by shared resentment, strategic necessity, or revenge. It's a dangerous game, and it's being played behind curtains that have only just begun to part. If the reports from Asmara are true, then we are witnessing not just political maneuvering, but the opening act of a potentially historic turning point in Ethiopia's modern history. In the eyes of the international community, the questions multiply. Can the fragile peace truly hold? Will this new alignment plunge Ethiopia back into war? And if it does, what will be the cost? Not just for Ethiopians, but for the region as a whole? For now, the streets remain quiet. But as the alliances shift and old ghosts return, East Africa braces for what could become another season of blood and fire. Because in this part of the world, peace is never guaranteed, and silence is often the sound just before the storm. Meanwhile, in the corridors of Maputo, Mozambique's capital, officials scrambled to respond, caught between global conservation promises and the brutal reality unfolding on the ground. Military units are mobilized, statements are drafted. But for those on the front lines, help feels distant, too distant. Meanwhile, in the forests of Nyasa, elephants tread cautiously, their paths disturbed by smoke and gunfire. The lions know, longer roar freely, they hide, sensing the chaos that man has brought into their domain. Meanwhile, across the African continent, another storm brews. In Ethiopia, where old alliances twist into new threats. In Sudan, where a civil war leaves cities in ruins. And in the Sahel, where insurgents stretch their influence across borders. Like a creeping fire, Africa is no stranger to resilience. Its soil has soaked up centuries of struggle, and its people have stood strong in the face of empires, famine, and war. But this is different. The Nyasa Reserve was supposed to be a sanctuary, a place where life could breathe freely. Now it is becoming a symbol, not just of environmental fragility, but of how terror and turmoil can strike even the most sacred corners of the earth. And so the question hangs heavy in the air. Can peace and wilderness coexist in a world unraveling at its edges? Or will the last wild places fall not to time, but to violence? Now let us turn to the world stage, where a rare moment of global unity is quietly reshaping our collective future. On May 20th, 2025, in Geneva, a historic vote echoed across international borders. After years of global crisis and reflection, the World Health Organization has officially adopted a landmark pandemic agreement aimed at making humanity safer, more prepared, and more united in the face of future outbreaks. It is the first legally binding treaty of its kind, born from the ashes of COVID-19, sculpted by 3 years of debate, negotiation, and compromise. Backed by 124 countries, the agreement pledges faster global response times, more equitable access to vaccines and medicines, and a shared responsibility to sound the alarm when danger emerges. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus called it a triumph of collaboration, a sign that even in an era of geopolitical division, nations can still come together for the greater good. But not everyone joined hands. Poland, Italy, Israel, Russia, Slovakia, and Iran abstained, voicing concerns over sovereignty and the balance of power. Still, the overwhelming support has sent a powerful message. The world has learned from its wounds, and it does not wish to bleed again. This agreement is more than just paper. It is a promise to protect the vulnerable, to act faster, and to remember the millions lost not with silence, but with action. Because next time, the world cannot afford to be caught off guard. Not again.